All right, let's go Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. A battle for the top of the NFC West. Cardinals are favored by 1.5 here in Seattle. Over-unders 47.5 per FanDuel. 6-4 Cardinals at the 5-5 Seahawks.
Yeah, this is a fun game. Seattle's defense, their pressure packages, I think, have been getting more creative as the season has gone on, as that defense really beds in and everyone gets a kind of intuitive understanding of how it works. Can they mess with Arizona's passing game, or get home with a ton of pressure, or simply is Kyler Murray good enough to just negate that by himself? He's the type of quarterback that can escape pressure, even unblocked pressure, and then make plays, whether it's with his legs or with his arm, buying enough time and then finding a pass. How does that dynamic play? Can that defense shut them down, or is Kyler Murray capable of just offsetting that by himself?
Yeah, Arizona, again, you're starting early in the season, didn't have a ton of faith in them. I think they're playing much better lately. Haven't given up a touchdown at home in their last 3 games.
Yeah.
They kind of defy the odds, right? They're kind of defying what the data says. The defense does. The offense
makes more sense.
Has looked really good. They've run the ball extremely well in recent weeks.
Yeah.
Offensive line's been moving people. James Conner running well.
James Conner's so good. I mean, he's leading the league in broken tackles. Like he's averaging 3.5 yards after contact per carry, according to PFF. His grade is really good. Multiple years now of just imposing solid, productive play. He's so difficult to stop. Then you pair him with Kyler Murray. Trey McBride is becoming an absolute star at tight end. Marvin Harrison Jr. is still really talented. Michael Wilson, now that he's number 2. That's a talented group. It should be good. The defense is a lot more questionable on paper, but it's been playing really well as well.
And then Seattle's defense has, they started out great, hit a massive lull where they struggled, had some injuries, but also really struggled, turned everything over at linebacker, right? So now it's Ernest Jones in their Tyrese Knight late-round draft pick out of UTEP, who I think they really liked, and he got most of the time next to Ernest Jones last week. We talked a lot about Mike McDonald's defense, and when he was in Baltimore, it took them half a year to figure things out, actually. Even though they started strong this year, that was kind of the trend in Baltimore. And they also traded for Roquan Smith, right? They said, we want to get better at linebacker. So Seattle's had tackling issues. They've had gap control issues. But have they solved it at linebacker? I do think they've been better, or at least a little bit better last week against San Francisco. So that'll be interesting because, on paper, if you look at the totality of the season, it looks like Arizona should have the advantage as far as their run game goes. And then every week I'm going to cite, hey, you don't know when Kyler's going to play special.
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, that trio, those are like Arizona's level of the dudes that can take over games. And they've done that a few times this year.
Yeah, they can. I just can't say enough good things, though, about this Arizona defense. On paper, it looks like one of the worst groups in football.
They have the 3rd lowest PFF pass rush grade, middle of the pack coverage grade, middle of the pack run defense grade.
Yeah.
But the sum of the parts ends up playing much better.
Yes, and I think generally, not always, but generally when that is the case, when the production of a unit is vastly different from the sum of the grading of the individuals within the unit, the difference is coaching. And I think this Arizona team on both sides of the ball is extremely well coached. I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. Last year, for them to be as good as they were, effectively without Kyler Murray for, let's say, the whole season. I know he came back, but it wasn't full strength, 100% healthy Kyler Murray. It was him coming back off a knee injury. They effectively played without their star quarterback last season and still outperformed everybody's expectations. Still, did well, were creative schematically, and now we're seeing it still persist. It still maintain on both sides of the ball. This is, I think, such an optimistic time for the Cardinals because if they upgrade the personnel a little bit in a few places, they could be really good.
Yeah, I still don't think they have the horses to, say, take advantage of the right side of Seattle's offensive line or some of the attack weaknesses the same way, but they've dialed up blitz pressure at the right time this year and created some havoc. The dynamic with Seattle, Jackson Smith and Jigba is now leading the Seahawks with 60 catches, with 678 receiving yards. He's the highest PFF graded receiver. So Jackson Smith and Jigba has essentially become their go-to guy really on the back of these last 2 weeks. His last 2 weeks of play, But it does give Seattle just more options. I still think Tyler Lockett's good and effective, but, pulling him away, elevating JSN with DK, who could still take the top off the defense, I think Seattle's offense is dangerous.
No, definitely it is. I mean, DK Metcalf is still a big play threat. They've got talented players in the backfield. Geno Smith showed last week that you can't forget about him either. He's not exactly a dynamic scrambling quarterback. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Jaden Daniels. But he's good enough that if you don't factor it in, like if you just forget about it, just play man coverage, he can take off and run for 40 yards and win a game. Like, you need to at least factor him in. So yeah, they've got talent on that side of the ball.
All right, so this one's also in that 4 o'clock window on Sunday. It's at 4:25 with that Packers-Niners game. So a ton of NFC West implications during that window, Sam. Arizona by 1.5 here. This line did flip. I think Seattle was favored earlier in the week. It did flip in Arizona's favor. Where are you going to go with this one?
I will go with the Seahawks.
I'm also going to take the Seahawks at home as home dogs. Harry's going to go with the Cardinals here. He's going to disagree with us
on
this one.
Well, he's got to play contrarian now to get back into it.
He's going to have to start,
running out of weeks.
Trying to catch up against us here.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.